Good morning, everyone. I've been at Sir Robert Calpine now for about 20 months. It's gone like that very, very quickly. And I think one of the first things, I'm the only female on the board, and there are 7 of us. And one of the things that we need to do, and construction wider is no different, is obviously address that balance and start to tackle bringing more females through and more gender diversity, BAME, LGBT, etc., etc. So this is the same kind of issues you're all experiencing. So one of the first things we did was introduce a mentoring programme. I have a great CEO in Paul Hamer who's very pro at bringing women through. And we thought we needed to start at the top. So every member of the board and the senior leadership team, there are 16 of us, mentor 2 females. From across the business in lots of different roles. So you'll have QSs, you'll have planners. Anna was obviously one of them. She'll talk to you about her experience. People from technical engineering side, people from operations and construction. To give people the opportunity to experience working with somebody at senior level in the organisation. It is very much, I think, a combination in terms of your experience as a mentor as well as a mentee. You gain an awful lot from it. The number of ideas that spark for me in terms of the kind of conversations you have is phenomenal in terms of we all think differently. And therefore, you know, I'm quite happy to plagiarise if someone's got a great idea. I'm quite happy to use that and cascade across the organisation. I think a few things for me that I think are critical in terms of having an effective mentor-mentee relationship is that first contracting meeting when you get together and ensuring that the mentee is very clear on what the terms of engagement are, the fact that it should be open, it should be definitely trust and confidential, but actually it's about getting direct feedback. And if they're not up for getting direct feedback and that being very honest, and yes, it's done in a critical friend way, where you're helping them to try and develop, then they need to understand that, in my opinion. I think we use psychometrics very well at SRM in terms of helping individuals understand what their preferences is and their go-to styles. So thinking about things like an OPQ 32 or a Myers-Briggs or we use something called Leadership Plain and Simple, which is Future Engaged Delivery. It talks about energies. You know, so are you an emotional energy, are you a spiritual energy, are you an intellectual energy, or are you very much a physical energy? And it helps you understand what the other individuals are around you are like, and perhaps why sometimes you're butting up against individuals. And so I'd say that's been very important for us. And I think the third thing is around an ambition plan. So working with your mentee on what that ambition plan is and making sure that's holistic for their whole life. It's very easy for you as a mentee, I think, mentor, to, I guess, put your particular perspective on, you know, where they're trying to get. You need to understand their whole life to help them in terms of they might be a female with 2 young children, and actually they might have aspirations in 5 or 10 years' time, but right now they're just wanting to, you know, take slow, small steps. You need to understand that and work with them in terms of what their ambition plan is. It's not yours, it's not the organisation's, it's theirs as an individual. So I think for me they're probably 3 key things I would always look to try to get right with the mentee when we're working together within the organisation. It's early steps. We're now starting to roll our mentoring programme out across all of the regions, across the organisation, and open it up to operational people on site, so some of our direct labour force. So it's interesting in terms of seeing how that's working. I'll hand over to Anna, who's going to share her mentee experience with you.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks, Karen. As Karen said, I'm on the receiving end of that programme, so rest assured I'm not going to now say all the things that I don't like about the mentoring mentee programme are. I kind of thought, so just a bit of background, I've been with the organisation for 10 years, and in talking to some of the other people on the various tables this morning, quite a few similarities. I've had some unofficial mentors historically, but it's only kind of more recently that I've actually formalised that process in terms of a mentor-mentee relationship, and I think that's really key. In terms of 3 takeaways, I kind of thought if I'm standing in the audience, what do I want to hear from a mentee? Yeah, we really need to change that word. And the first one, and it's akin to some of the stuff that we've touched on, is to be honest. So you're never going to get out of the relationship with your mentor what you want unless there's 100% honesty from the start. Get to know each other. And I don't just mean in a work capacity. Tell them about your home life as well, because for me they are inextricably linked. And in terms of being honest and getting to know each other, that for me was sharing things like my Myers-Briggs, my 360 results in advance with my mentor. And that really sets the kind of basis of a relationship, because that's what it is. Just to give a bit of an analogy, my mentor is also my line manager, and I think it's really key that you keep those 2 discussions separate. I'm relatively new to my post, and my second session with my mentor was to discuss the final level of phase of interviewing to get some support. Now, he was actually my interviewer, and in some contexts, if we hadn't got that relationship right, that could have been a real big conflict of interests. And what tells me that that relationship works, I came out, I was inspired, ready for the interview, and I was prepped. So I think that's a good analogy to give. Secondly, be prepared. As Dana said, you are the engine room. Don't expect to go into a conversation and think, okay, so what we're going to talk about today. You own that space. It's an opportunity for you to get the most out of it, and to do that you need to do prep work. Think about what you want to discuss, what challenges you've got. Provide information up front so your mentor can be prepared and to give you the best of their help and support throughout that session. Don't expect to have all the answers on a plate. More recently, I've got experience of the mentor side of things, and quite a common theme is people thinking that I'm going to provide their next job for them. Don't expect that. The idea is for you to come out and provide the answers to your own questions, and your mentor's there to help you prepare to do that. And thirdly, it's about a relationship. As I said before, it's 2-way. Your mentor's giving up time, as are you, to provide benefit to you, but they're going to get out of it something as well. So symbiotic relationship, and it's benefit for all. And if you kind of go into it with that kind of idea, I think you're best prepared to get the most out of it. What does a really good experience feel like in my eyes? I go in prepared, I come out, and quite honestly, I'm buzzing. I've stretched the conversation in terms of what I thought, but they've given me another dimension to discuss. And if you can get to that kind of point, that feels like a really good hour spent in my mind. So that's kind of just a bit of an experience from my recent experience.
Can I ask, Anna, in terms of your mentoring relationship and that line manager thing, that's really interesting for me, because I feel a lot of what I heard today is about trying to have a personal relationship and talk a little bit about outside of work as well as your kind of work environment.
Yeah.
But I would have thought maybe that would kind of cause some restrictions in terms of what you might be able to say. That presumably means the person who you choose to mentor you, or who chooses to mentor you, has to be really a really appropriate choice. You can't just be anyone who does this for you.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. You can't see it as, and I know sometimes we do, and I have done that in the past when it's been more informal, they're the senior person that kind of you're going to learn from. You need to go in that relationship thinking you're both equal, and if it doesn't work, you need to get to a position where you can say that it isn't working. My mentor at the moment is the CEO and my line manager. You know, a conversation in terms of going for the role that I now have could have been played out so differently if we didn't have that relationship. And I think it's really important, I think I said before, to make sure that you have a difference between when you're having a mentoring discussion and when you're having an operational discussion.
So your mentor is the CEO.
Yeah.
Can you go in and say, do you know what I don't like about what you did here? Or do you know, can you have those really honest and conversations?
Yeah, to be honest, then quite frankly, yes, I think I might frame it a little bit differently in terms of if you want some kind of constructive feedback in terms of how that was received, because I think he values that, absolutely. But yeah, he's brilliant in the fact that he's very challenging, but I feel that I can challenge back, and otherwise, if you don't have that relationship, you're always going to be missing out on what the potential could be. So,
do you feel he adapts what he thinks in terms of strategy and that kind of thing based on that type of feedback? Do you think what you say matters in terms of how he approaches the business ethics and the role he has in the company?
I think he does consciously and subconsciously, so he probably hasn't even noticed and will hate me for saying it. We had a mentoring session and then we went into our senior leadership team and he used the words that I talked to him about in terms of feedback to give an analogy.
He
in the
ripped
senior
off what
leadership
you were
team.
saying, basically.
He basically plagiarised, so there's obviously a theme going on here, but steer with pride and all that. But
He's my boss too, so
Yeah.
I definitely see him actually modify and change what he's doing as a consequence of the dialogue that you have.
Can I ask, Karen, when you say that the board members each had 2 women in the business to mentor, how did you choose, how was that process done? Did people apply or did they?
No, initially, in terms of to get the programme up and running, we wanted to get it off the ground. As a board, we had a discussion with the senior leadership team as well in terms of who were the young up-and-coming women that we saw in the organisation. And then I went through a process of trying to match them with appropriate individuals.
And would they be time-constrained relationships? Would it be a 2-year thing and then someone else would get the opportunity to learn?
We're just about probably 9 months, 10 months in.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll review it again at 12 months. We may carry on for another year after that. But it was a look-see, I guess, in terms of how it worked. Did we need to change? In fact, we haven't. The matches worked quite well. But we would have been prepared to change people if they didn't work, because it's critical.
And finally, this whole programme is about trying to get more women into leadership roles, not just at board level, but leadership roles across businesses and across the industry. I know I deal with men 99% of the time in terms of kind of, senior decision makers in the industry. I just wondered, as the sole female on the board, what can you do personally to try and change that balance, or does it have to come from the CEO chair?
I think the onus is on all of us, but I think I have a key role to play in terms of taking the opportunities that are provided at board level. So you need to be seen to be adding value and making a difference and demonstrating that, so that your male colleagues actually value your opinion and value your contribution. But I think, through the mentoring programmes, I like to get out to site. I'm there this afternoon and try every week. It's about spotting talent and giving individuals that opportunity to start to develop their careers. And progressing. Anna was appointed as my first appointment at the senior leadership team as a female, and I hope there'll be many more that you'll start to see at Sir Robert McAlpine.